Good day, everybody. Jennifer Blevins-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today I want to talk about holding claims for insurances in which you are pending contracting and credentialing status. There is a misconception out there that if you hold your claims for patients in which you have seen with insurances that you're still pending PAR status, which means your credentialing and or contracting hasn't been completed, that you will get retro coverage for those claims. That's not always the case, and I just want to talk about that today and bring some things to light, and also to make sure that you're aware that that's not always possible, and to make sure that you're asking the right questions to these insurance companies when you're getting contracted and credentialed. So I have experienced a lot of doctors who want to start seeing patients right away in their new practice, and they might only be, let's say, contracted in PAR status with, a handful of insurances, but there's still quite a few that they're waiting on, and it can be quite a few patients in their patient population. So they think it's best just to hold those claims until they get contracted and then release them, hoping or assuming that they're going to get paid as in network. Unfortunately, in my experience, and every insurance is different, and that's why it's always important to still ask and not assume, but commercial insurances generally do not retro cover. So that means that anybody that is seen at your office with a specific commercial insurance in which you're still waiting to be contracted and be considered as in network or participating, they will not go back and cover those visits that were seen before your effective date on your contract. So if you're seeing a bunch of Blue Cross Blue Shield patients for 3 months waiting on your contracting to go through, and your effective date is May 1st, and you saw a bunch of patients in February, March, April with Blue Cross, and you held them and hope that they'll all be covered because now you're contracted and you submit them, let's say May 2nd, most likely they're either going to get denied if patients don't have out-of-network benefits, or they're going to process as out-of-network, and the patient will be responsible for more out-of-pocket responsibility. That is because they do not retro cover, and they don't cover any dates of service previous to your effective date of being in network of May 1st. A lot of people don't ask the insurance companies when they're starting to go through contract and credentialing if they will retro cover any services rendered before the effective date. But it's very important that you do, so that you know how to handle this going forward. Your federal payers like Medicare usually will cover a year retro. So they will, if you're in the process of becoming contract and credentialed and seeing the patients with Medicare Part B, they usually will go back from a year of your effective date. So if your effective date is May 1st and you saw patients 6 months prior that had Medicare and you held on to those, if you submit those after May 1st, they will retro cover those as in-network for you. Medicaid plans often will do at least 6 months, but I would check with your local state Medicaid plan to find out what they will do for you, and so that you can hold those claims appropriately if needed. TRICARE, if memory serves, is 6 months as well, but again, I would definitely be checking on these and not take my word on that. The one place a lot of people get confused is with the Medicaid MCO plans, so the managed care option plans where people have a Medicaid insurance, but it's through like United Healthcare or Blue Cross. Often those will follow the commercial plans guidelines, and they don't follow the Medicaid guidelines. So there's a good chance that those MCO plans that aren't just straight state Medicaid insurance are not going to retro cover at all. You need to check with them, as I said, because everybody's different and I can't give just a one broad statement about everything, but in my experience, they don't. Commercial plans very often won't. I know United Healthcare won't. I know Blue Cross won't. I know Aetna and Cigna won't. Those are your big national payers. Maybe some of your local commercial payers will, and if you ask them, maybe they just need you to ask for them to do it. So that's why it's always good to ask as well, not only to get the information, but maybe they don't offer it, but if you ask, they will. So it's always good to make sure you do. But in those situations where you find out that those insurances will not retro cover, you have to figure out how you want to handle that in your office. Because no matter what, if you're holding those claims, they're still going to get denied or processed as out of network, same as if you were to send them immediately. In my suggestion, and what I feel is best workflow, is discussing with the medical director and manager and billing specialist coming together and saying, okay, we want to open our doors, or we have this new provider coming on and we're contracted with these certain insurances that are in network, but we have these insurances that are still pending. How do we want to handle those? My suggestion for commercially insured patients in which the insurance plans are not in network yet, I would provide them with a document upon check-in that explains that you are still pending contracting status with their insurance company, and they have two choices. One, they can choose to be a self-pay patient until you become contracted with their insurance, or we can still move forward, or you can still move forward with billing their insurance, but there is a chance that it will cost them more money out of pocket, because if it processes out of network and they have out of network benefits, that's just across the board, it's going to cost them more money out of pocket. But if it gets denied because they don't have out of network benefits, then it's also going to cost them a lot of money. When they call to schedule the appointment, your front desk should be using that cheat sheet in which you provided to them to inform them that, oh, I see you have Aetna insurance. Unfortunately, we're not contracted with them yet. It's still in process, or the provider you're going to be seeing is not contracted yet with that provider. It's still in process. So you have a few options. One is you could pay for cash, self-pay at time of service, where you would get a time of service discount. Or we could submit your claim to your insurance and it would process as out of network, which means you might be responsible for more money out of pocket. I would encourage your staff to encourage your patients to ensure that they do indeed have out of network benefits as well, because they're not as common as they used to be. And unfortunately, patients don't pay attention or understand their coverage very well until they specifically need to look something up that they would know. So I would ask your staff to make sure that they mention that to them. Yes, this is a lot more work for your front desk staff, and it's more education to them and educating patients, but it will benefit you in the long run, because patients will really appreciate that communication and that education piece. The piece of paper I talked about handing to patients when they check in, I would ask them to sign that, acknowledging that they understand their services they are choosing to still have rendered by you will be processed as out of network or denied if they don't have out of network. So they can't come back to you and say, I was never told, I didn't understand, whatever it might be. And I would keep that in their document, scanned in their chart or filed in their paper chart if you're not doing electronic charting. Communication to patients is huge, and also educating your staff to understand the difference between out-of-network, denied claims, credentialing, and what it means to be still pending status. Because if you give them that knowledge base, they're able to educate patients. And honestly, patients usually just want to be able to understand and be communicated to, and usually they're very happy with that. So again, holding claims might not be the best solution if you're still pending participation or in-network status with a payer, because if they don't retro cover from your effective date, then the claims will get denied or processed as out of network anyway for the patient. If it is a federal payer, most likely they will, so those are probably your best ones to hold. But again, you want to make sure that you're asking all of your payers if they will retro cover before they're at the provider or the group's effective date with the insurance company. and just making sure that you understand what you need to do when it comes to billing so that you're not losing any kind of money out of pocket. And if you need to collect money up front from patients because they're going to have a higher responsibility or they want to be self-pay until you start accepting their insurance, then they've made that educated decision based on what you've been able to provide to them. If you have any questions or comments regarding this, please leave it in the comments below. I know this is one of those areas that can be really confusing and there's a lot of moving parts. And so I'm happy to take a little bit more time one-on-one. If you have follow-up questions about this topic, don't hesitate to email me or reach out to me so we can have that conversation. Smash the thumbs up button if today's video was helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And take care of yourself. We're coming into fall really fast. It's my favorite time of year, so I'm really super excited, but still enjoy some of the nice weather we're still experiencing. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.